Hey up everyone, welcome back to the Rugby League History channel. I hope you're all well on this Monday. Tonight I'm going to be bringing you my round 7 tips for the 2021 NRL season. So let's get into it with the first game, which is kicking off on the Thursday, and it's between Penrith and Newcastle. And this match is being played at Penrith Park, or as it's known now, Bluebet Stadium. So for Penrith, they had a bit of a tough win over Brisbane. A lot of people expected Brisbane to lose that match by 30 or 40 points, but they really come out and they gave it to Penrith. But Penrith, like a couple of the other top sides, even when their backs are against the wall, even when they are not playing that well, they still come away with the win and they still find a way to win games. For Newcastle, they had that last minute victory over Cronulla thanks to Keelan Ponga. He put in a man of the match performance. This game, I'm going to go for Penrith to win between 1 to 10 points. I think it's going to be another tough game for Penrith. I think Newcastle's going to come out with a lot of confidence after beating Cronulla last week. But I think with Penrith at home and the way that they've been playing, I still think that they can get the job done. The first match on the Friday sees the Gold Coast up against South Sydney, and this is being played at Seabourn Super Stadium on the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast were flattened last week. They're absolutely smashed 36-0 by Manly. Not many people expected that. For South Sydney, they laboured to victory over West Tigers. Of course, we all know that exciting ending with Tom Baker scoring underneath the post, but there was at times in that game where it looked like West Tigers were going to get away with it. But as I mentioned with Penrith, South Sydney's another one of these teams where they just know how to win games and they know how to get themselves out of tight situations. For this game, I'm going to go for the away side to win. I'm going to go for South Sydney to win between 1 to 12 points. The Gold Coast, I'm still not convinced by them. They've only beaten 3 teams this year: Newcastle, Brisbane and North Queensland. 2 of those clubs are basket cases in Brisbane and North Queensland. I'm still not convinced with the Gold Coast, so I'm going to go with South to win this game. The main match on the Friday night is Parramatta up against Brisbane, and this one's being played at neutral territory up at TIO Stadium in Darwin. Of course, Parramatta get paid, I think, around about $500,000 to take one home match to Darwin, so it's a very good financial thing for Parramatta to take a game there. With Parramatta, they had a very impressive win over Canberra last week. Not a lot of people would have expected that as well. For Brisbane, they showed a lot of heart against Penrith, and there was times in that game when they really scared Penrith, and they looked like they could have won the game, but it just fell away from them in the end. This game, I've been thinking about it a bit, thinking about which team to go for. I'm going to go for Parramatta to win this game by 6 to 8 points. I think Brisbane's going to come out again this week, and they're going to try to frustrate Parramatta. I think they might even give Parramatta a scare or two, but I'm going to go for Parramatta. I think that they'll be supremely confident after beating Canberra last week. The game's also in neutral territory, and Parramatta they actually have a pretty good record up in Darwin since they've moved home games there, so I'm going to go for Parramatta. The first game on the Super Saturday sees Cronulla-Sutherland up against Canterbury-Bankstown. This one's being played at Conqueror Oval. So for Cronulla, they had the heartbreaking loss against Newcastle last week, and for Canterbury-Bankstown, they lost the Spoon Bowl match, the first edition of the Spoon Bowl game. They lost that by 12 points. They looked out of it, but then they came back into the game. They're 0-6 to start the year, worst ever start in the history of the club. I don't see it getting any better for Canterbury on Saturday night. I'm going to go for Cronulla to win 1 to 12 points. The next game on the Super Saturday is an interesting one. It sees North Queensland up against Canberra. This one's being played at the Queensland Country-Bank Stadium in Townsville. North Queensland, 2 wins on the bounce. Canberra, 2 losses on the bounce. They've conceded over 60 points in 2 weeks consecutively. This is a really tricky game to pick. I know that Canberra's down on confidence. I know that North Queensland are going to be up on confidence. But I think Canberra are going to come back into form. I'm going to go for Canberra to win this game between 6 to 12 points. Even though Canberra have lost pretty convincingly against Penrith and Parramatta, I think that they're still a good team, and I still think that they can win against North Queensland, so I'm going to go for Canberra. And the final game on Super Saturday sees West Tigers up against Manly. This one's being played in neutral territory at Bankwest Stadium. West Tigers heartbreaking loss against South Sydney. They thought they won it through Luke Brooks there at the end. For Manly, Tom Trbojevic is back, and all of a sudden they're just magically this brand new team. Hey presto, and they're not the Manly that we were seeing in the early couple of weeks. For this game, I'm going to go for Manly to win this game. I'm going to go for Manly to win between 10 to 16 points over West Tigers. I think West Tigers, even though they've been in a couple of games, I just don't think that they're good enough, and they're lacking a lot on the field. And Manly are going to be really, really high on confidence after 2 wins in a row, and Tom Trbojevic is back, so I'm going to go for Manly to win at Bankwest Stadium. The first match on the Sunday is the Anzac Day match between Eastern Suburbs and St George, being played at the City Creek Ground. If it's a nice sunny day, I'm expecting a crowd between 30 to 40,000 to show up. St George, I tipped them last week and they lost against New Zealand. I kind of thought that maybe in the back of my mind that might have happened, and it did. And for Eastern Suburbs, they lost against Melbourne down in Melbourne there, but that's not really something to cry over. A lot of teams go down there and don't win. They also had a bit of unlucky stuff go against them. This is another really hard game to pick because Eastern Suburbs have got a lot of players out. St George have been playing well, and they hit a brick wall against New Zealand. I'm going to go for Eastern Suburbs to win between 1 to 10 points. I think they're a side like Penrith South, where even though their backs are up against the wall, and even though they've got a lot of players out, I still think that with the coaching of Trent Robinson and some of the players that are in the side, they can still win games. And I'm going to go for them to beat St George between 1 to 10 points at the City Creek Ground. And the final game to close the round out is Melbourne up against New Zealand. This one's being played at Amy Park. New Zealand retained the winning ways against St George, and Melbourne beat Eastern Suburbs, as I just mentioned. I'm going to go for Melbourne to win this game 13 plus. Melbourne's pretty much unbeatable at home, and I think they're going to be too good for New Zealand on the Sunday night on Anzac Day. So anyway, that's my tips for round 7 of the 2021 NRL season. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't yet subscribed, please consider subscribing. Anyways, this is Rugby League History signing off, and I'll catch you all later in the next video. Alright, tatty bye now.